Secretary candidate Caroline Doe come up.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming to VSA's 2023 to 2024 elections. My name is Caroline Doe, and I'm a freshman running to be the next VSA secretary. Upon entering BC, I was afraid I wouldn't find a place to quote-unquote fit in. Throughout high school, I would always try to appeal to others, showing a different version of myself that adapted to their likes and needs. I think that's what made me the most scared about transitioning to college. However, it wasn't until I heard about VSA and the kind of community that they built that I began being comfortable showing my true self. What I noticed about VSA is that they're always willing to help and are eager to build relationships. I felt like I could be open and express all my quirks and worries despite not knowing the people. If elected as an e-board member, I would hope to provide the same loving and caring environment to the upcoming class as the VSA community has done for me. Being chosen as a freshman representative has allowed me to build so many strong bonds with people that I never would have met otherwise. As well, it has equipped me with all of the tools to be a strong leader and how to work with a large team. By attending VSA meetings, I was able to observe Leo and all that he does as the role of secretary. The main roles include making weekly newsletter, taking notes for meeting minutes, sending emails to board and gen members, as well as booking venues for events. I believe that this position requires someone who is organized, communicates well with others, and is driven in publicizing the club. If you know me, you know that I have a Google Sheet that checks off all of my assignments for each class that I make at the beginning of each semester. It's something that keeps me well organized and informed in my week and is checked and updated on a daily basis. I just think this is an example that makes me good for secretary. During my time in VSA, I found that the role of secretary is important in outreach into the BC community. Although it's essential that the board plans and runs events for VSA to make them safe and appropriate, I want to be a part of a board that is attentive to the needs, likes, and dislikes of the entire community. I want to allow gen members to have a voice in event planning and how we can make the organization even better. After all, VSA wouldn't be what it was without all the people a part of it. Thus, I would like to implement an idea of allowing gen members to plan one event that is held at the end of the year. By sending out a Google form included in the weekly newsletter, it will provide options that everyone can vote on to make an event that they would truly love and enjoy. As well, outside of designated event planning and duties, I want to ensure that everyone feels safe and that they belong in the VSA community. I think that the two pillars in the VSA Constitution, being welcoming and genuine, are important values to go through life as well. Being able to build valuable connections and create beautiful memories translates to the success and happiness of the club. I hope to be a part of the foundation of happiness for future members because I know that VSA has done all that for me. I want to thank the board for their hard work this past year and for welcoming me with open arms. Each and every person in VSA has wiggled their way into my heart and has become a part of my family. I hope to give back to this community and contribute to the amazing organization that VSA is. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll consider voting for me as next year's secretary. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Leonardo, can you come up?
Excellent job, Caroline. I love your speech. I have two questions for you. My first question is, so in regards, like we mentioned, I really like the idea of how you would like to implement an event for the gen members of this club to make towards like the end of the year. I think that's really unique. In addition to that, are there any other changes that you're willing to implement? I guess we'll start with like within the newsletter itself and like how you would like to build upon that.
Well, within the newsletter, it's more of like, it's very hard to read, I guess, and decipher just because all of the events and everything is compiled into one at like the beginning of the section. I would make it more like spaced out, having more of like a newspaper kind of design, one section for this, one section for like events, one section for upcoming like ideas that can be presented. And I think that's important just because when you're looking at like an email newsletter, you want to go through it fast and you don't really want to sit and take the time to read everything. So I think that's one thing that I would change about the newsletter.
Thank you. And then my second question for you is, so a lot of the times this year, like I would like the protocol was that like I would text Quan Julie, like before each week. And I'd ask like what events should like be on the newsletter for this very week. And so they would get back to me accordingly, but there would be times where like it was just out of our control, and like there would just be like an event that either like we weren't notified about in a timely manner, or it just like I guess came about, or like they just forgot to tell me. So in other words, how would you, I guess, adapt to that, like where it's like they tell you something like right before or like the day of that you're supposed to make your newsletter? And I guess like what would you adapt and how to that extent? That makes sense.
By adaptation, do you mean like right before you send out the newsletter, they would tell you something?
Yes.
I think I would just make edits upon my own accord, as if it was something very unnotified and very just out of the blue, I would just try to find a section to put it in, just so it has somewhere to be publicized and to be going about, or else I would send out another news, like another small email that would just be saying, oh, make sure you look at this, make sure this is just something else that wasn't included.
And now we'll open up the questions.
Jason?
An issue we've had in the past with secretaries and email newsletter is the engagement of the Gen members, especially because emails they're not as checked as frequently as some people would want to. What are ways we want to implement to kind of keep this engagement from the newsletters?
The increased engagement, as I said before, it was like the Google form that makes the event, and I think that one's a really big one, just because I think it would allow for the community to be more involved, and that they would be excited at the end of the year because it's both their event that they're planning. And I think that would increase engagement. So as maybe like putting in different polls or different votes, like, oh, what's your favorite food of the week? What's type of music that you really enjoy? Something that the newsletter would be able to kind of show that they're really actually involved in the community, and that they're not just Gen members. They're more just like a family that we put. Joseph.
Your hypothetical, if someone else in this situation, no one of them came out with running the secretary, why should we vote for you?
I think it is because, as I've observed the BSA board and everything that's going on, I've been able to see the inner workings, and that's something, or somebody else who hasn't is able to adapt to and is able to identify. There's a lot of things that go on within the e-board that Gen members do not know about, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of adaptation to it. So I think that's why.
Off of Jason's question, social media is something that people regularly check. How would you incorporate secretarial duties into the secretary?
I think posting on the story is something that a lot of people would like to see, just because when you have posts, it kind of gets lost and everything. But stories is like a one-time day, one-time event. You can post polls, you can do a lot of things. I think since people regularly check their Instagram, Snapchat, stuff like that, I think doing a lot of more polls, a lot more engagement within social media would be a lot better than just doing emails.
As a nursing major, your workload will increase in your sophomore year with clinicals and just having once a week classes. How will you balance like being secretary and being like a nursing student and managing some of that?
I believe that there's a reason that of the role that I chose as secretary. It's more although it's a lot of outreach into the BC community, it's a lot of on your own time, on your own accord that you're able to do it. I think that was the reason why I chose it as well. School is school, club's club. The more you promote yourself into doing something, the more time that you will make for it. I think that since I'm very dedicated to this role, I will find time in my own accord to do it. Really?
So being secretary is kind of like being a writer, and each writer kind of has their own style. So like Leo always starts with what would you say is like your own style of building newsletter?
I don't know. I've kind of taken on like a lot of things from everyone. Something has, I'm not very sure as of right now, but I know it's something that includes slang, my own kind of wank way of writing stuff. If I-
What is something you would add or remove what is something you would change this company you would add or remove?
I don't know. Hmm.
Let's say add, because I feel like if you go with remove, it's gonna be like kind of addressing the same question that I had asked at the beginning.
Oh, thank you.
Something add, I think I already kind of adjusted more polls rather than just, I like, kind of like Google form polls, that's like very in the moment kind of thing, something very quick and very, maybe even videos if you're able to do that.
Sorry?
Maybe even some videos, if you're able to do that.
Yes.
You weren't applying for secretary, what other role would you apply for?
I think I'd apply for co-culture chair just because I was in CSA KSA culture show as well as yesterday's BSA culture show, and I think that was like one of the highlights of my freshman year. And it was very fun, very exciting, and has a very special place in my heart because of all the memories and dedication that everyone has to be a part of it.
Is there any other questions?
Regarding your, event with that members, like, what you're talking about earlier, how would that, how much of it, because if, you create an event, like, in the middle of a semester, it's like, it's a hassle for, the board, because we have to put in budget requests, like what we did over in the break, but we'll do it this summer. How would you work on that?
I was thinking about actually doing one every semester, but I understood about the budgeting, so I took that into account. I would send out polls like very early in the beginning of the first semester so that when we start planning our budgeting for second semester, the event can take place at the end.
Is that all for questions for Caroline? Okay, thanks.